Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. My name is Cody Sizemore, and today we have a very special episode for you with a very special guest. But before we get into that and introducing her, I just want to say a few things. So number one, we really appreciate that you are here every single week, especially those people who listen every single week. We like to call you guys every weekers, and we just want to say, hey, thanks for being every weekers. You guys are awesome. You're what keeps this show going, and we really appreciate you. And we've been seeing more and more of those every weekers show up in our Facebook group as well. So if you aren't in the Facebook group, I don't know what you're doing. You should be in there. So get in there. It's simply called the Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits. So make sure you pop in there. And then after that, you can come back to listen to the show and you can just sit down, enjoy the ride, and have some fun. So with that being said, I'm here joined as always with my lovely co-host, Maria Casillas. And like I said, we also have a very special guest. And the special guest is someone named Linda Kaye. She's a wealth strategist, author, speaker, broker, and a podcast host herself called Money Talk as well. So Linda, welcome in. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to talk to your every weekers and to your general audience. And there's so much to say about your show and the fantastic following that you've got. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. So Linda, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you? Obviously I gave you a little bit of an intro, but nothing's better than just hearing it straight from you, So tell us a little bit about you, how you got started, and what you're most excited about right now.
Well, I've been around for a while, so I've had a lot of different careers, and I think that I think I read this as a statistic somewhere that we'll probably end up with at least 4 careers in our lifetime. So, we don't stay in a job and get the golden watch and, the golden handshake and out you go in the corner window or whatever, because we don't stay in organizations for long. But I've had a really incredible career. I started off as a musician, and I had a funny story, if you'll let me tell it. I grew up with 7 brothers and a far too distant sister. And they were really good at getting attention and getting mom's attention. And I honestly thought, if I'm going to get attention like they are, I could actually end up in jail or at least juvenile hall. I mean, they were juvenile delinquents. So I said, I have to do something they're not willing to do. And I took up piano because, hey, only girls do that, right? So I got pretty good at it after a couple of thousand hours, but after 10,000 at 14, I got paid for it. And that took me literally all over the world traveling as a musician. But, a very, very long and protracted event in the music industry where everybody was on strike. I figured I got to do something like now. I've got to pay the bills, and crossing a picket line is not going to work for me. So I looked around and I said, well, the only ones that are making any money at this, Cody, is attorneys, right? So I figured if I became an attorney, I could probably charge a lot of money for stuff. Well, going off to law school, I did get into law school and made that transition, but again, I still needed to pay the bills. So I was up in the Bay Area in California, and I needed a job. So I said, well, I need one that doesn't really have too much obligations for me. So something that doesn't require a lot of me, sort of like a cashier or something. So I was looking in the paper and I found this job, and I said, all right, I can do this. And I drove down the peninsula into Palo Alto, and I took an inside sales job. Now, Maria, when I tell you I sold the most boring thing on the planet, I guarantee you nobody will have anything more boring than what I was selling. But he gave me my manager gave me a script, and he said, just follow the script. And here's the list of people that you're going to call on. And I'm like, what is this? He said, well, it's a magnetic backup tape drive. And I'm like, a what? A magnetic tape drive? No, a backup tape drive. It's like really specific, and you're going to talk to IT professionals. Like, well, what's an IT professional? I had no idea, none. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. I mean, I'm getting paid, so might as well do this. So I start reading the script, and I suck. In the first month, you know how many sales I made, Cody?
In the first month?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to just take a guess, and I'm going to say 0.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a lucky winner.
Yep. That's how it usually goes.
So then I go, okay, well, I suck at this, but at least I'm getting a paycheck. So I kept doing it. And funny thing, in month 2, I stopped using the script, right? Mm-hmm. And I started to sound a little bit more natural sounding. I started asking questions about why things were important or what kind of problems they had. And they wanted to talk to me. And all I had to do was get them to agree to take a tape for free and try it. And then I would, if they would try it, then I would call them back in a week. Did you get it? Did you try it? And this went on. But at the end of month 2, guess how many sales I made?
I don't know. Hit me with it.
0.
0. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Okay.
Okay, so not only did I think I sucked, I knew I sucked, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this for just a little while longer. And so I remember calling on one of the people that had taken a tape, and I called him up and I said, did you get the tape? Yep. Did you try the tape? Yep. Did you like the tape? Yep. Now, there aren't too many questions after this, so you got to go in and you got to go ask for the order. I said, so do you want to buy it? And he said, how much is it? I said, it's $50,000. He said, I'll take 2. What? Oh, man, I put that phone down. I ran up and down the hallway doing my happy dance. I'm like, at that point, I was like, I was completely sold on this. And I literally, once I learned that it was a conversation that you need to have. Once I learned that you got to find problems that other people have, that you have to have a solution that fixes their problem, not yours. That's when I really began to understand the value of being able to have a sales conversation. Most people break out in hives when I say the word sales, but honestly, if you don't have sales in your business, you got a hobby. So that's how I got started, and that's what got me started into a career of sales. And I stayed in the tech market until the .com meltdown, and then parlayed because of a problem that I had. I found myself out of work, and all of a sudden I needed to pay the bills. Here I am again, pay the bills. And I'm a single mom at this point, and all I've got to do is figure out what is the most expensive thing I can sell. And I'm looking around going, I don't know if it's not software anymore, because the software market has just literally shut down. And I started looking around at real estate, and I'm like, I don't know anything about real estate. It's not too hard to get a license, but I didn't know anything about it. And I said, well, I went to open houses, and then I went to a couple of things, and I'm like, I don't want to do residential. It didn't float my boat right. It was not challenging enough to me. And I felt like I'm wasting my education or doing something that it just didn't feel right. And honestly, we didn't have the prices then that we have today. And I said, what's the most expensive thing I could sell? And I said, it's retail. And the only thing I knew about retail was shopping. So I said, well, that's exactly what I want to do. And I got into commercial real estate, and I've spent 22 years in that career. But as I looked around and I started helping other agents get started and helped build commercial offices in the Los Angeles area, I really began to understand that it's really, it's a gift. Honestly, it's a gift of being able to communicate with people. It's a gift to be able to tell people, how to start their business and get their business going. That I went down another rat hole, and I said, I can be a coach. See, when we all start learning how to be a coach, or we fixed a problem, and usually it's ours and we get pretty good at it, right? Mm-hmm. But that's how I got started with this, and that's what I'm doing today. So in order to get over the anxiety and fear of getting back on stage, I started a podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used, when I was a kid, I was terrified of the water, the ocean. And so I became a lifeguard to overcome that fear. So I had forgotten, how fun it is to be on a stage, because it'd been years since I'd been on a stage as an entertainer. So what did I know? Anything? I didn't know anything more about it, except I need to be able to communicate with the audience. I need to be able to tell them about stuff and things and have fun. So that's what's gotten me here. And that's why I'm here today.
Love that.
Being able to help
Love that.
share my story with others.
Couple things before I let Maria chime in too, because she's been sitting waiting patiently. One thing I just want to say that we actually have in common that I didn't know about you actually, is that you started off as a musician as well, because that's my story too. I was traveling and I was playing in bands and stuff like that, and the reason that I stopped doing that was because of money.
Definitely see it.
Yeah. And the reason I stopped doing that was because of money. And that's what kind of started the whole snowball of me becoming a financial coach and stuff like that. Right.
Right.
So I love that. Just love that we have that thing in common. And then the other thing that I wanted to just take note of too is what you were saying about the sales side of things, like how the script wasn't working. And then you just started having conversations with people and just trying to make a relationship with people and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We actually, the last show that we recorded was talking to people, trying to get them on a consultation call. And that was one of the main points I made is you don't want to just pitch a sale to someone right away. It's about building that relationship. And then when the time is right, hitting them with your ask kind of thing, So I just love that you said that, because it goes really well with actually the last episode that we recorded. And it's a really, really important thing. And you had no idea what we recorded last, So just the fact that was talked about is yes, here's another example. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to say those two things. And, just say, hey, I think it's sweet. I think it's sweet that you're doing that. So, yeah. So with all of this,
before you go there, can I say something?
Sure.
I just want to say what I picked out from that was an immense level of persistence. And there were a few spots that I heard that when you said that you had 10,000 hours of practice by the time you were 14 years old, that's a big flipping deal, because we can't get most 14-year-olds to do anything besides look at a screen for more than, 25 minutes at a time. So I'm really impressed by that. And then the fact that you had not just one, but 2 solid months of zero sales, and yet you persisted. You said, I'm going to find a way to make this work. And so I actually wrote down a formula that you shared with us without even saying it was a formula, but that was that, finding a problem, identifying a problem, then finding the solution for that problem plus persistence equals the sales. And so I just wanted to throw that out there, because I picked up on that just by your introduction.
This is awesome. I would add another component to that. And that is, when you're first starting out, there's this great, momentum and this excitement about getting started. And like I said, we usually fix a problem, and it's usually ours, right? I needed a job. I needed to make money. So I went to inside sales. And I don't care what it is that I sell. There's absolutely nothing that I can't sell. But what I found was that it was the most magical way for me to make a connection with people, because my superpower is solving problems. I mean, if I don't have a problem to solve, I'm really kind of lost. And that's really what I want your listeners to hear really strongly, is that while you may fix a problem, maybe that problem isn't everybody's problem, and it shouldn't be everybody's problem. When I ask my own clients, who is your audience? I always say, well, everybody is. Well, then nobody is. Because you're going to have to, somebody told me a while back, riches are in the niches, and you niche down. If you're a financial coach, you're usually going to be a financial coach to a specific segment of people, whether it's a group, a demographic, a gender, an age, or a business. And it's the easiest way for you to get your business up and off the ground is to really look at who your avatar is. Do your research. Do your analysis. The most overlooked thing in business is understanding who your audience is. It isn't everyone. And then finding the most profitable segment. Like think about the health industry. It's huge, right? So if I'm thinking about the health industry, I need to segment down, and maybe it's on diet, right? Maybe it's on health and fitness. And then the second piece of that is now you've got to get your messaging right, because when your messaging is absolutely spot on, you're going to create what we call the heart and the heads of desire. So you create the desire for things. Let me give you an instance so your audience can kind of catch up with my brain on this. So when we think about diet pills, we think about, well, what's different about any kind of a diet pill? They don't work, right? They all have that in common, because when we stop doing something, it no longer works, right? But when we say that diet pill, and this is the messaging piece of this. So we're going to be able to segment in our market. We're looking for somebody that wants to lose 10, 50, 20 pounds even, right? And so I want to be able to attract them with my message. And I want to be able to tell them that this diet pill does something to fix the problem that they have. Now, if I'm coaching somebody, I'll give you another piece of this. Because there's a magical part of this and a formula to it. Since we like formulas, I'm going to give you one. So we've now understood who our market is. We're going after that market. We know that it's a profitable segment of the market. Everybody wants to lose that 20 pounds, but I have a diet pill or I have a supplement. It doesn't mean that it stands out. And so in order to make it stand out, your messaging needs to communicate so it will create demand and desire. That's an important piece of this, creating demand and desire. So I might say, this diet pill will help you lose weight without diet or exercise. Okay, I get my wine, I get my chocolate, I'm in, right? But the first thing, so we created that demand, right? That demand and desire. But the first thing our brain does is it puts on the brakes and it goes, that's too good to be true, right? And it's the head's job is to protect the heart from getting disappointed, from getting set up, from getting taken advantage of, and being hurt. And so the brain's natural instinct is to say, remember when that happened, and don't fall for that. And so we need to engage in our conversation a couple of magic words. You ready for them?
Let's hear 'em.
Right. So if I'm talking to a client or I'm in my copy or I'm writing my copy, I might use the word remember. That's one of my magic words. Remember. And I saw a lot of people adapt this after COVID. Everybody had an extra 20 pounds or an extra whatever. Remember when you were 20 pounds heavier. Now, instantly, the brain does and engages in exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It's flashing memories of pictures and all kinds of things that I could never say enough words to cover, but the brain is doing the work for me. And they remember, okay, so now they remember this. Now, imagine every head turning in the room to see you walk into your 20-year high school reunion looking like you did 20 years ago, right? So using those two components, those words. So it isn't just enough that we found our audience, that we segmented the market, but we've got to get our messaging right. Because without that messaging, we're just, another voice in the wind. Don't hear it.
All of that's super important. And I agree with like the statement of like, if you're trying to help everyone, you're not going to be able to help anyone kind of thing. And that's something that I feel like a lot of newer coaches kind of struggle with, and that was even me, when I first started, like, I was like, I just want to help everyone, and it was difficult at first. It wasn't until I got very specific with who I wanted to help that things started to really take off. And I think the big reason for it is because of what you said with the messaging. Like if you're trying to speak to everyone, you're not really touching anyone. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be able to speak to someone in a way to where you throw out a post, just a general post for anyone in your audience to see, but they feel like that post is specifically made for them, kind of thing. And that's the type of people that want to connect with you. Those are the type of people that you want to work with. So that's really, really important. There is one thing that as you were talking through everything, which, by the way, you gave like some really awesome pieces of information, especially the magic words like remember and imagine. Those are really, really good. I can even like picture it right now in my head. I can imagine it in my head, and I'm going to remember this conversation. But there is one thing that was kind of going through my head that, I was just kind of putting myself in the feet of the listeners, and it's like, for those who haven't quite figured out like their ideal audience, what's like your biggest suggestion of taking that first step to narrowing it down? Because maybe speak to those people who are like, well, I do want to help everyone, or I think that I can help everyone. What's the first step for them to really try and narrow it down a little bit so it can be more effective for them?
So when I think of that answer, and I want to be thoughtful about this because I know a lot of people really struggle with this, Cody, and that the number one issue and the reason why small business owners fail is because they fail to adapt that very, very thing, understanding who their audience is. So if it's, what problem do you solve? That's really the question that you have to ask. So, and the other piece of that, the contrasting side of that is it's got to be something tangible. I'm going to help people become happy. I'm sorry, it's a little too altruistic. It doesn't have any meat. And you've got to be able to say, I'm going to be able to increase your sales by 37% in the first 6 months. Now that's something very tangible, something very, very tangible. So make sure that you understand what problem do you solve. And then the second thing I would say is who has this problem? It's not everybody. So if you're a financial coach and you're looking for people that have money that's slipping through the cracks, that isn't everybody. Right? Or you're helping individuals that are a six-figure. So you've got to get real specific. I work with women over 50 that have too much month at the end of the money. Right? That's something extremely specific. So you really want to get some specificity in that. So when you understand that, now go and do your research. Go to the new AI tools from Claude to GPT-4 to Perplexity and start asking questions. How big is this market? How big is the market? Is the market big enough? Give it to me in dollars and cents. And who are the biggest players in this? Who's my competition? Go study them. Go look at them. The thousands of hours that I put in as a musician. Oh my God. I was thinking about this morning while I was playing it, wasting some time while I was on hold playing a video game. Right. And I'm like, oh my God, if I had taken all of the hours that I do that and put that into something useful, like I did with my music, what could I do with that? But I digress. But the overarching piece of this is understanding that there are problems that you solve that people will pay for. How big is the problem? The bigger the problem, the more you can charge. I'm going to say that again because that's a writer downer. When you're solving a problem, the bigger the problem you solve, the more money you'll make. Because when people are hurting, and that's really a message to each and every one of you, whether you're in the heart space or you're in the head space, wherever your coaching is, you want to be able to reach your people and solve a problem for them. And how big is that problem? If you have children that are demanding to have the attention and you're trying to balance work life and parenting and running your business, maybe there's some things that you actually address. And so that problem to that person is so big and so personal that they will pay to get out of that pain. Right? If you've ever experienced a toothache, the first thing you want to do is make an appointment to go see the dentist, right? And the worse the pain, the more you want out of that pain, the more you'll overlook the fact that you're going to have to pay a lot of money for it or that they're going to give you a shot and that's going to hurt. because you want to get out of that pain. So remember, just try to internalize that message that when you are solving a problem, the bigger the problem that you solve, the more they want out of that pain, the more they'll pay for that, getting out of that pain.
Can I just say something real quick? And then Maria, I'm sure that you probably have some thoughts too on this. This is something that I think is very important to talk about, especially with maybe some coaches who have started already. Maybe they're in their first year or two, and they are, every coach I have found, we get into this to help people first and foremost. And usually it's because we went through a similar pain. And that's why we want to do this, right? But one thing that, I see happen to a lot of coaches is that they undervalue themselves and their services quite a bit, especially in this niche of coaching, because we're financial coaches and we don't want to, be more of a burden to our clients, financially speaking, than we feel like we may need to, kind of thing. So we end up undervaluing our services and undercharging for our services. And because of that, the clients don't actually take things very seriously. They don't actually get the help that they need. They don't get the value they need. And then they end up just kind of like floundering, or maybe they make some progress, but not very much. And it takes a big hit on the coach, not only financially speaking, but also mentally and emotionally. I feel like it probably breeds a lot of imposter syndrome, to where it's like, well, am I actually good at this? Like, can I actually do this? Like, do I actually have what it takes to do this? All that kind of stuff, right? So that's something I think is very important, especially with this niche of coaching, because we have such big hearts, because we want to help people get through the things that we once went through as well. We tend to undervalue and undercharge our services. And I just want to make a note here that just says, hey, if this person is struggling with this issue and it's that painful and they've been dealing with it for so long, they are going to be willing to invest into the coaching, but more importantly, they're going to be willing to invest into themselves to get this done. And that's really important to understand, because when people invest, I would just say a decent amount of money or a larger amount of money to hire you for your services, they're going to take it seriously. And when they take it seriously, they're going to actually make the moves and do what they need to in order to actually solve the problem, So I just think that this is really, really important, because that's one thing that I see. I mean, I talk to a lot of financial coaches. I talk to a lot of them. And I ask them what they're charging and, all this kinds of stuff, because they're struggling with their clients. They're struggling getting clients, all these sorts of things. And it's always, I would say 95% of the time, the issue is that they're not charging enough, which is why they're actually struggling to get clients, believe it or not. And it's also why their clients that they do have are also not really doing that well as well. So I'm kind of curious about both of your guys' perspectives on that, Maria and Linda.
Well, I actually want to hear what Linda says, but I'm going to add this to it and just tie together what she was using as an example. And, you used toothache as an example, Linda. And you said that if the pain is large enough or strong enough, that you will be willing to pay the cost. And then you said, even if that means that you have a shot that hurts. And I think what stood out for me there is that in that case, you're trading pain for more pain. And sometimes that's what this is. And I think what Cody's saying is that because yes, the people in our niche have really big hearts, but I think one of the reasons that we struggle with this so strongly is because what we're charging is the same thing that we're trying to help solve for people, right? Like we're charging money, and that's the pain point for them. And so since those are the same, so I love that what you were saying about the toothache is sometimes it takes more pain to help heal that pain. And in this case, when somebody puts down money for financial coaching, that's kind of like the shot of Novocaine that hurts at first, but will ultimately be the thing that helps the pain go away.
Mm-hmm. Imagine not getting the shot and just going for that drilling. Now, if that doesn't just conjure up an image of Running Man, I don't know what does, or Marathon Man. But
yeah.
When you think of the fear and anxiety. Have you ever noticed a dentist doesn't bring out and show you the needle? They bring it always from the side, and your face is like this, and all of a sudden it's in, because we have this phobia about it. Well, maybe your clients have a phobia about money, and so maybe one of those issues that they have. And I'm not even going to call it an issue. I'm going to call it a value system. What is your value system about money? We'll oftentimes find that value system is taught to us when we're little kids. Money doesn't grow on trees. We're not made of money, and I heard these messages all the time when I was growing up. So what messages are your coaches living within themselves to understand? Because if they're having an issue asking for money to fix a problem, then there's a little bit of a look that they can do to create a little bit of introspection, where they get to take a look at what their opinion about money actually is. And when they solve that issue, when they resolve that issue, asking for money becomes less of a challenge. And I loved what you said, that we are undervaluing ourselves so much that we're willing to take less, and that's where our imposter syndrome is probably emulating from. The need to charge for something it's universal. Nobody gets anything for free. Do we value anything that's for free?
No.
Even just think about this for a second. If your coaches are saying, "Hey, I've got something free for you, a free gift for you." It isn't free. If you're going to their website to get something, you're opting in. You're not getting that for free. You're trading your name and your contact information, right? So when I think that there's a misperception about this concept about free or about charging, but you've got to be really clear about what your attitude is about money. If you're looking to solve somebody else's problems, make sure that you're clear about your own and that messaging that you have around money.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep. So as we're talking about, coaches getting started with financial coaching, we talked about, the idea of like charging more. We talked about the idea of finding your ideal audience. All those are really, really good points. There is one question that's kind of floating through my head, and I always love asking these types of questions because you never know what's going to come up. But what do you think that new coaches, whether it be financial coaches or just coaches in general, when they're first starting, what do you think that you see is one common mistake that people would make that might be holding them back from either getting their first client or scaling their practice?
Question. I would say the number one obstacle is getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready. Okay, we put it off. We have to have our funnels done. We have to have our pictures done. We have to have our slicks done. We need to have our nurture campaigns, our lead magnets. I can't tell you how many things in my first year that I went after. And I said, I need to have that because I go to all of these seminars, right? And everybody's hawking something, right? And so, I got to have that. And then I would claw it back and go, I really don't want to pay for that, or I'm not ready for that. So there was a lot of reach, withdraw, reach, withdraw, reach, withdraw. I would say in your first year, forget about all that. Get a one-on-one client that will pay you for your advice. Start with 1. Then go to 2. Then go to 3. And when you get to 5, put them in a group, right? And then start another pod. Because what you'll find is that they have different needs and they can feed off of each other in that same group. And that what you're providing, you're now building and you're building and you're building. You're building your content. Because nobody has it right when they first start out. God only knows how many mistakes I continue to make. But if I had known what I know today, I would tell that Linda Kaye 4 years ago when I first started this, that you don't need to buy anything. What you need to buy is your confidence, and you need to sell your confidence because confidence sells. When I say, I fix your problem, I make millionaires with the advice that I give. See how convicted I am about that? I absolutely know that my advice makes multimillions. Why? Because I have a long history of this. And so my confidence in saying that is infectious. People love that. People buy your confidence. If I said, if you give me a try, I might be able to, improve what you have already. And, I'm kind of kicking my toes. And see, nobody's going to buy that. People are going to buy your confidence. People are going to buy your smile, your attitude, your personality, because there's so little that separates us and our competitor. I'm going to say that again. Very little separates us and our competitor. I'm not talking about, some gene splitting, atom splitting technology. What we're talking about is not any different than most of the other coaches have. What makes it unique and why people buy that is your confidence in what you're doing, your delivery and what you can do, and of course the results. So, in your messaging, I always start with the result. I make millionaires with the advice I give. So I also like to make sure that when you're talking to your right fit audience, you never know who they are. You don't know when they're going to step up. But honest to God, 25 words, not more than that. 25 words. I'm Linda Kaye. I help small business owners and entrepreneurs build their product or their services so they can make money faster. That's how simple and clean it needs to be. 25 words that says who I am, who do I serve, what problem do I solve, and what result do they get in working with me. 25 words. Practice that. You'll be surprised at how hard that actually is. And I do that in a 20-minute call with usually when I speak on stage, I'll give this as a free thing. And no strings attached, because it's so important. I really think that people get lost. And if you've ever been, I don't know, if you've ever been, remember those things called networking events?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They went away during COVID, right? Well, we're right back to them, but now we're doing them in a different way. We have to do that in a virtual stage, or, and more as we get out. But if you can recall going to a networking event where the objective was to go and meet somebody, the idea that here, take my card and people are like, that's kind of putting off. So think about you in a networking environment, that you say something that's interesting, could be even provocative, right? So I'm trying to think of, just off the top of my head, I help small business owners find the money that they think was stolen, right? That's kind of provocative to say, right? So that's interesting. Tell me more. They're leaning in now. They want to hear more about what you're doing. They don't want to know how. Trust me, they do not want to know how. So while you're busy doing these webinars and these seminars, teaching them how, you're giving it away. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to know how. They want to know the result, right? Go back to the words that I just gave you, which is, remember what you looked like 20 pounds ago. Now imagine if you're going to a reunion and you haven't seen these people in 20 years, you want to get those 20 pounds off, but remember what that looked like when you had them off. You probably wore that cute, sexy little, blue dress or that black dress. And now they can transition them. Imagine having the money at the end of the month that you start with. At the end of the month. How does that happen? Well, you're going to learn how to do that with my magic bean formula, right? So you got to have a unique mechanism as well. So when I talk about the unique mechanism, social proof and all the other things in your copy, I'm led back to some really good examples. 4 out of 5 dentists agree that, right? So now you've got a social proof. So finding your testimonials, finding, 5 out of the 6 people that worked with and used my formula, followed my advice, got 10x results. Whatever that is, make sure that that's part of your messaging, but start with one. Get it right. Get it right and get it tight with one person, because you're going to find that when you go to the next person, you go, I gave too much in that one. I'll shave that off. And that's not important. And then you continue to evolve. And as you evolve and you get better, guess what? They're telling other people about it. They're giving, and I'll give you one really, really strong piece of, I'm not even going to call it advice. I'm going to call it a hack. If you have to give something away for free, then double the price on it and then discount it. Let me say it again. Let's say, for instance, you're going to sell this package for $4.97. Then build and stack the value. It's got a $9.97 value, but for today and today only, or some other limiter, or the first 10 people that are going to do this. So how, if I'm talking to a group, normally my fees are $2,500 an hour, but because of this person that brought me on stage, I had to come up with a special pricing, because people are not, if we don't believe we're going to get that, we are not going to get it. But if the number is $9.97 for this course, then I'm going to stack it to a $9.97. I'm not going to make it $19,000. It's got to be a realistic number. So while you're pricing this, just remember that you need to see the value and stack the value so that they see the value. If you don't value it, they won't either.
Just as a quick recap, everything that you've said in the last 5 minutes is very much reminding me of what you said in the first 5 minutes. And that was about those 2 months that you had of when you were first in insider sales. And you had said month 1, you followed a script. And in month 2, you started to do you. And you started to sprinkle in your own verbiage and all of that. And it very much reminds me of what you were talking about just now, about how that first year or so that you were doing stuff, you were going to networking events, you were watching what other people were doing, you were thinking you had to buy all those things, do all those trainings. And to me, that's like the first month of a script. It's like, this is what everyone says we need to do. And then you started to sprinkle in a little bit of who you are and understanding this is the talent that I bring to the show. And this is the thing that the thing that sets me apart from everybody else. And so that's just one quick lesson I want our listeners to be able to pick up on, that it's obviously a pattern in your life. So that means that it's something to actually take note of today. Don't feel like you have to follow the script all the time. There is room for you to do the things that you are meant to do specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Yep.
So true.
Love it.
And there's nothing like having a sale to give you some confidence. Yeah. I remember when I first made that sale, and on those two $50,000 products, I was so excited, but the enthusiasm, and you got to remember the enthusiasm. So the manager said, get back on the phone. Your level of excitement is going to excite other people. Go call people that already took the product. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, when I learned everything that I could about sales, what I learned was that, I could make the money that I needed to have to do anything. But I don't have to spend it on everything. Mm-hmm. So, and that's an important distinction as well. I mean, but those skills that I honed it starting, I'm going to say probably 30 years ago, has allowed me to build and sell the products that I've sold over the last 2 decades of over $800 million in products and services. And in fact, it's allowed me to work on one of the biggest deals I've ever worked on, a $50 million transaction where, I'll get a 7-figure commission on it. Just don't stop what you're doing. I think that's one of the things that entrepreneurs do, and they make a big mistake. It's not working, so I'm going to discard it and I'm going to go start something else. And then it doesn't work for a while. It's going to take a while. I'm working on a campaign right now, and I hired a service to do cold emailing. Okay, cold emails are cold, very cold. But I have to warm them up, right? And so we've been doing this for 5 months, and I'm like, how long does this take anyway? Right? We're so tempted, we're like the farmer that digs the crop up to see if it's growing, right?
Right.
Because we want results, and everybody's asking, well, how's it going? Well, I'll let you know when it's going, but it's working on it right now. And so keep going on it, because you'll build momentum on it. And then as you start to build momentum and you get that confidence, you get that first sale, get back on the phone. Just let it keep going and going. Don't stop it and start. Stop, start. That's my biggest mistake. I have had campaigns and I've had products and I've sold, ideas and services. And I'm like, you just keep doing it. And the more of these you do, the better you get at the messaging, the better you get at your funnels, the better you get at your campaigns, the better you get at finding affiliates to sell your products for you, the better you get at speaking on a stage. It's a process. Just be patient with yourself. It's not created overnight.
And just like that, we have come full circle with persistence.
Yeah. And that's something that I want to just make a note on as well, because I think, and I could be totally botching this stat, but it's pretty close to this. But as far as coaching practices go, I think that the average lifespan for like 93% of them is about 6 months. And that is like a really telling statistic, because it's after those 6 months to where maybe you haven't gotten traction, or maybe you've only gotten one client or whatever, that people tend to just, pivot, or they give up, or they go in a different direction, or whatever it might be. And it's so important to just keep going, to build that momentum, because the biggest thing that's going to make things successful for you is reps. Like every rep that you get, you're going to learn something new, and you're going to refine it, and you're going to do it again. And you're going to learn something new, you're going to refine it, and you're going to do it again until you get to become an expert into it. And then when you become that expert, that's when things really start to become momentous for you, So I really, really love that, because I heard that stat, like I think this past week, of, it only being 6 months for the majority of coaching practices. And I'm just like, wow, that's actually alarming, kind of thing, So thank you for saying that, because that's really, really important. Go deep, not wide.
Yeah. And there's no better loan that you could get for your business than your full-time job. So do this as your side hustle when you first start this. Don't leave your job. Mm-hmm. You're going to need 6 months to a year of your income anyway. So why not just pay yourself that loan while you start it? We all find extra time that we need to do something, right? But I would say that, at a minimum, get yourself started with who is my audience, who's my target audience, what problem do I solve, what would the results be that's tangible in working with me? And then start doing your research to find these people. Where do they hang out, right? So are they hanging out at the gym if they need to lose 60 pounds? Probably not. They're probably working with a private coach, or they're probably working with a nutritionist or something like this. So find these people. Where do they hang out? And go find them and find your message to get in front of them. And that isn't buying a Facebook ad or spending expensive money there. Okay. I'm just saying that there are ways for you to find this, and use the AI tools that are available to you today to help you define your market. And don't be satisfied with the first answer. What does that mean? Go deeper. And what does that mean? Go deeper. And what does that mean? Go deeper. The second piece of this is, while you're building your expertise and you're building your audience, find places to go have this conversation at. Get yourself a good 10 to 15 minute conversation where you can be in front of an audience telling them a funny story, a teachable 3 things that could be, without going into any depth whatsoever, and a wrap up. And then a way for them to contact you with a call to action. That simple little formula, getting on a stage, whether you go and speak to the Girl Scout Club, or whether you go to speak to the Women's Club, or the Kiwanis, or the Optimist Club, go where you can get an audience that you can tell them what you do. It is amazing. Maria, have you ever asked anybody for help?
Yes.
Do they just say, oh, forget about it, I would never help you?
Well, if it's my teenage daughter, yes. But anyone else, no, they're happy to help.
No, if we go into these situations and we go, and I'm here today because I need your help. Cody, would you help me, please? Mm-hmm. Cody's heart is like already on his sleeve. I can see it. He's going to go, what can I help you with? Right? So you ask everybody, is there anybody that you know where I can go speak and tell my truth, or tell my story, or tell something, right? Because everybody's got a story. And today you got to have a story. So get yourself a story put together along with the product that you have, the problem you solve, and the results of working with you, and an easy way for people to find you. A call to action that says, oh, I'm definitely going to do that. Mm-hmm. And you'll be amazed at how often you will be out speaking. So, and if you don't find receptivity, don't stop. Yeah. The first door that you knock on won't open. The second door might peer it open and go, I'm not buying any. And the third one that you knock on might talk to you and never buy anything. And the fifth and the 100th and even the 150th. You keep going because somebody's going to say yes. And I made it a game for myself. I would make 100 calls a day. That's what I could do, was 100 without an auto dialer. My formula was get on to 20 conversations. If I could get on to 20 conversations, I can have 5 meaningful people that I'm going to be able to follow up on. So people give up. They're like, I don't want to get on the phone. Oh my God, that's scary. Okay, then drop them a note. I always say, you want a guaranteed way to have somebody reach back to you? It's called this. Hi, I'm Linda Kaye, and I was just thinking about you, and I just wanted to give you a quick little message that lifts you and gives you a moment of brevity, and maybe I tell a joke or something, and I send it. Mm-hmm. People love that. It's called connection. It's human connection. And they love it. They appreciate it, especially if you know somebody's going through something. Practice it on people you know, because it's a guaranteed way that people are going to respond to you, whether they do it in a text message or they call and they go, that was the nicest thing I ever heard. And you get practiced at it, because if you get a lot of accolades and a lot of positive vibes back for things that you're doing to give to somebody else, then when you meet that one person that's just like, I don't want to even talk to you. And I was campaigning this weekend and I literally must have scared this woman. She ran up her driveway up to her house. Wasn't anything that I said, right? But people will just do the funniest things and you just can't be bothered by it. Understand what you're doing. Understand what your program is and understand what your mission is. When you understand your mission and you know you've got a solution for something, it's your obligation to help somebody out of pain.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Couldn't agree more.
Amen, sister. I'm preaching it now.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Linda, as we wrap this up today, I want to give you the opportunity to, do your call to action and where to find people, or where people can find you rather. So let me ask that question. Where can people find you? And, if they wanted to connect with you, what would be the best thing for them to connect you with?
I am going to have Karen drop something, because she dropped something. Can she drop a link?
Yeah. Yep. We can include the link in the show notes too.
Great. So that link will get you to your build my 6-figure wealth plan. And there's a link to book a call with me so you can get those 25 words I was just talking about down to. People always say, what do you do? And then you get this wah, 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 wah. And you're like, oh my God, at that networking event, you're like, don't go see that one. Right? I can get you to that 25 words that tells what you do, how you do it, and why people would want to work with you. So that would be the fastest way to book time with me. And if you want to know more about who I am, LindaK360.com, LindaK360.com. And I'd love to talk to any of your people about any of the topics that we covered today. And please go out and get my free gift. It is really a no obligation. It gives you a great outline of the things that you're already working on, getting you to a 6-figure income.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Linda, thank you so much for your time today. This was a awesome conversation that hit on many different levels. And I know that anyone who listens to this episode, they're going to listen to it again and take a bunch of notes, and they're going to, grab that free resource that you're giving, and they're going to connect with you and all different types of things, So I just want to say thank you for your time today. It was amazing. And, we'll have to do it again sometime.
Thank you for having me on the show today.
Awesome.
Our pleasure.
Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you for chiming in this week. We'll see you next week. And don't forget to snag that free gift from Linda. Super packed with value. So make sure you grab that. With that being said, thanks again for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching. Music provided by Summer School.